So let's define a couple things because that will make it easier to find the click that you'll be looking for. First is the difference between want to and willing to. And then I'm going to define receiving and giving the way I'm using them here. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about pleasure and the nature of pleasure. So want to and willing to. Very important difference and a very big difference, and one that if you pause for a moment to ponder it, the difference would be pretty obvious. But want to is for something that I want for my own reasons because it brings me some kind of enjoyment. And it may or may not have anything to do with you. Something that I'm willing to do is something that I wouldn't choose for my own reasons, but I'm willing to do it because it's something that you want, brings you some kind of enjoyment, and I care about you, so I'm willing to do that for you. It's a gift, really. To be willing to do something for someone is a way of giving them a gift. So there's lots of degrees of want to and willing to. I can be, yeah, I'm willing to do that for you. Sure, no problem. Sounds great. It could be, well, yeah, I could make that work. Or it could be, ooh, I am just barely willing to do that. Or it could be, I am not willing to do that. So there's degrees of willing to, and of course there's degrees of want to as well. We want both of those in our lives. We need times when we are attentive to what we want, and we need times when we set aside what we want and we're attentive to what we are willing to give. And a life with only one of those would be a pretty puny life indeed. We need both of them. The difficulty is that if it's difficult to know what you want, or if it's difficult to communicate what you want, or if you have just forgotten how to want, which in the realm of touch and sex is pretty common actually, if the wanting part of the equation is challenging, then what you end up with is the willing to part pretty much all the time. And as I said, you want to be willing to sometimes, but it's not the way you can live your entire life. So we're going to play with the difference between want to and willing to, and just notice that there is a difference. And the key to, if there's any confusion between those two, the key is always noticing more exquisitely what it is that you actually want. What do you prefer at this moment? So let's talk about receiving and giving. I'm using those words in a very particular way, and here's why. First of all, it's a lifelong study, receiving and giving, and all the philosophical implications and meanings, and it's a very rich thing to explore. What we're playing with here is a microcosm, sort of a distilled essence of receiving and of giving, and in a very tangible and physical way. So when you get it with your hands and you get it with your body, they suddenly sort of open up and become very, very clear and very, very rich. So one of the difficulties in talking about receiving and giving is that we use the same words to mean two different things, and those two things are not necessarily related and don't necessarily happen together. So the word receive, for example, the main use of it is that something's moving towards us, or arrives at us, or is done to us, or happens to us. Whether we want it or not is not part of that equation. So I can receive a letter, I can receive a gift, I can receive a pass to the 20-yard line, I can receive a caress, I can also receive a grope or a punch in the jaw. I can receive a compliment, I can also receive an insult. I can receive a guest. So that use of the word receive means it's coming towards us, it's happening to us, doesn't mean we want it or not. No indication of whether or not we want it, just happening to us. The other use of the word refers to a gift that's for us. So when I receive a gift, it's by definition something that I want and that I like and enjoy for my own reasons. And this is where want to and willing to come in. That the giver is willing to give it, and I'm the receiver, I want it. The form of that gift can be a lot of different things. It can be something that you do for me, come over and help me move my piano or give me a nice back rub. It can be something that you bring to me, like a present. It can also be something that you allow me to do that I want to do. So you can give me the gift of letting me come over to your house and pick the pears off the tree in your yard. You can give me the gift of inviting me over to use your hot tub when you're not home. So the gift can be something that's done to us or something that's done for us. It can also be a gift of allowing us to do something that we want. So two very different meanings. This one has the meaning of it's happening to us means it's done to us. And the other meaning is it's something that is for us. So if you're paying attention, you'll notice that when we're playing with touch, those two can get very confused. Sometimes they happen together, sometimes they do not. So in this context, I'm using the word receive not to refer to what is done, but to refer to who it's for. So if it's a gift for me, then I'm the receiver, whatever form the gift is. If it's something that's done to me, then I'll be talking about what's actually done, I don't use the word receive for that to mean that. And the same thing happens with the word give, of course. I can give you something that you want. I can also give you something that you don't want. I can deliver a blow. So that's how I'm using receive and give. They don't refer to what is done. They refer to who it's for. So that's receiving and giving as I'm using them. And what we'll be playing with and what you'll find is that the more clearly you take them apart, then there becomes this wonderful flow from the giver to the receiver that is nourishing at both ends, and we'll be playing with that. So that's receiving and giving. The other thing I want to talk a little bit about is pleasure. This is another word that has a lot of different meanings and a lot of mixed feelings about it because, like I said in the other tape, we do have a limit, a comfort limit to how much pleasure we enjoy before we sort of hit our bump of self-doubt and shame and fear. So I'm using pleasure. Well, first I use enjoyment in a very broadly defined term of lots of things to enjoy in this world. Good conversation, a job well done, beautiful music, our skin, lots of things to enjoy. I'm using in this purpose pleasure to mean skin pleasure, so enjoyment that comes through our skin. And of course there's lots of different forms of that, lots of different degrees of that. Pleasure does not inherently mean it's about sex. You can have a fabulous pleasure getting a plain old massage with a therapist. You can have a fabulous pleasure of a really good scratch on the back from your kids. So lots of different kinds of pleasure and lots of different degrees. It can be something that's, oh yeah, that's pleasant and that feels really nice. Or it can be this full, tranced out bliss, state that just transports you. Lots of different kinds of pleasure, lots of different degrees of pleasure. In particular, what we're playing with here is a relaxed state of pleasure. So relaxed means that your parasympathetic nervous system kicks in, your blood chemistry changes, your brain waves change, your breathing changes, your body just settles in. And when that relaxation state of pleasure sort of clicks, that's actually a very important need for our human physiology. It's good for our health. It resets things. It balances your blood chemistry. It changes your perspective. Very, very important experience to be able to access, but not everybody remembers how to access that for lots of reasons. So we're going to be playing with, letting that click in. And there are lots of things that will dependably prevent that click from happening. One of them, like I just said, is that we may have forgotten how, and so I'm going to show you how. And one of them is that we may not feel safe in some way. if the tiger's running behind me in the jungle, I'm not going to, I'm going to be doing something else. Or it may be unsafe in some other subtle way. If we're having an interaction with somebody else that involves touch, we may be a little worried about, well, what does this mean, and where is it going to go, or where is it going to not go, and all that stuff. So there's some unanswered question or doubt, or can I trust him or her? Can I trust myself? What's all this mean? So I'm going to show you how to clear those up as well. And one thing that in particular that I want to talk about here, one thing that really prevents that state from clicking is a sense of effort or work or determination that we're going to push through something. And here's why. So I've watched this cool video. It shows all these new sex tricks that I'm supposed to like and somebody's supposed to like, and so we're going to do this thing, but I'm really not sure I like it, but I really should like it, so there's something wrong with me. I'm supposed to push through this, and if I just make myself do it, I'll learn to like it. Well, what happens is that as soon as you take that effort stance, your nervous system is on guard. It says, wait a minute, what's going on here? And then that state can't actually click on. The effort of making yourself do something prevents you from actually enjoying what you're doing. So what we're going to be playing with here is how to notice what you already like, what you already want, what already feels good, what already sounds wonderful to try, and sinking into that state there, so your physiology kicks in, your perception changes, your brain waves change. And when that clicks in, then from there, a lot more becomes possible and other things become interesting. And you find out, wow, I could do this for a long time. Or, that feels great. I think that's enough. Now I'm interested in something else. Or, it feels great. I'm satisfied. I'm done. So what we're playing with here is follow the pleasure instead of trying to tell the pleasure where you think it's supposed to be, or where you heard it was supposed to be, or where you saw a video that was supposed to be, or where your partner thinks it should be for you. It turns out to be kind of ironic that you might think that going into a game or a process where you're learning some new kind of touch, what's going to be difficult is, oh dear, can I do it right? Or, oh dear, is it going to feel good? Or can I make myself like it? What's actually more difficult is, what is it that I actually want and like right now? And being true to that and following that turns out to be, for most people, more difficult than going through the action of doing something that they're not really very thrilled about. So we're going to play with that. It's very, very rich and very, very satisfying. And it actually turns out to be really simple. And I'm going to be showing you how to find that relaxed, pleasurable baseline, sort of base camp state that other more exciting kinds of pleasure are built on, but that relaxed state of pleasure that's the baseline. And I'm going to be showing you how to do that in a way that's very pleasurable and enjoyable, and it's not about effort, because then you won't find it anyway. So it's really simple. It's actually quite easy, and it may click in a few minutes. It may take quite a number of times playing with it before it clicks. It really depends. So that's pleasure. We're going to be following the pleasure where it already is and letting the physiology click in instead of telling the pleasure where we think it should be and trying to make ourselves like it. That is not the way we're going. So want to, willing to, the difference between those, notion that for yourself. Receiving and giving are not about who is done to, but about who it's for. And then pleasure, follow the pleasure. Don't try to tell the pleasure where you think it should go. And then the last one I want to talk about before we get started is a little bit about the difference between touch and sex and why it's really crucial. And I'm going to do that on the next video.